Let me share with you two things about the weather, climate and energy that are beyond a joke and are a sad indictment on this country. The first is kind of silly, I guess, but it feeds into the global warming hysteria. And that is the way the media, encouraged by the Weather Bureau, of course, reports so-called heat waves these days. I mean, calling it a heat wave in Australia when the forecast is in the mid-30s. What nonsense is this? And have a look at this weather map. They just keep going for darker and more dramatic colours to show rising temperatures, don't they? It's supposed to look scary, I guess. And the highest temperature on that map is 35 degrees. What will they do when it reaches 40? Just colour all of Australia black? It's pretty silly stuff, but it's just so common these days. The more concerning and damning problem is the other aspect of that story. With the warm weather comes the threat of blackouts. We don't have enough power to confidently meet peak demand on a warm day. Now, I've been talking about our national energy self-harm for more than a decade, so you've heard it all from me before. But we've turned our energy-rich country from a place of plentiful and affordable electricity and economic advantage to one where we have an energy pricing and reliability crisis. A few hot days has the energy market operator taking drastic action.
We are experiencing some quite unseasonable hot weather here in New South Wales today, and effectively that is a summer heat wave while we're still here in spring. That, combined with a number of major generation units that are on outage, both due to planned and unplanned maintenance, is causing tightness in electricity supply.
Mate, enough with these excuses. We're 5 days away from summer. We expect warm weather, and your problem is you don't have enough reliable generation. These are the people in charge of the so-called transition to renewable energy, and they're making a hash of it. They'll hope to muddle through by using demand management, that is, by paying large electricity users like factories and smelters to shut down for a while to reduce demand and hopefully prevent blackouts. So the New South Wales Energy and Environment Minister gave us this.
The advice is always the same. On really hot days, do you really need to have every single light on in the house? Do you need to have your air conditioning, down at 19 degrees? You don't.
Well, I expect to put a light on if I want to put a light on. You and I might suggest a modern country needs to ensure it's got enough power when it needs it. But these people want us to stop using electricity. I mean, make up your minds, people. 1 minute you want us all in electric cars and using electric stoves instead of gas cookers, and now it's switch your electricity and your appliances off. As I keep warning, we've been lucky to have a couple of mild summers. If we get a normal summer, there's every chance we'll be hit by power shortages on hot days in January and February. And if that happens, well, Lord help the Albanese Labor government going to an election a month or two later. Now, this electricity crisis, this threat of blackouts, comes hot on the heels of the United Nations COP29 climate conference in Azerbaijan, where Climate and Energy Minister Chris Bowen was glad-handing the UN's climate action set and signing Australia up to tip more money into developing nations, including China, mind you, the world's largest greenhouse gas emitter. I mean, Bowen should be sorting out the electricity mess back here, but he's travelling the world, adding to his carbon footprint and promising more taxpayers' money to help other countries stuff up their power grids with renewables. But it gets worse. Yeah, it always gets worse. The federal government is backing the South Australian Labor government as it bids to host one of these United Nations climate conferences. Yeah, COP31 is likely to be held in Adelaide in 2 years' time. I mean, why not force most of the world's nations to fly to one of the farthest flung cities possible so they can maximise their carbon footprints for a climate conference? Listen to how South Australia is spruiking itself.
Leading with wind, leading with solar, leading with batteries, leading with hydrogen.
What about leading with price? You know, yeah, South Australia has more wind power than anywhere else. It also has the highest prices in the country, some of the most expensive electricity in the world. And as for hydrogen, well, investors are backing out of these schemes at a rate of knots. It's pie-in-the-sky stuff, technology that is unproven on a commercial scale. But that doesn't stop the hype.
In less than 2 decades, we've gone from 1% renewables to 75%. The highest proportion of variable renewable energy penetration in the world. And we'll hit 100% net renewables by 2027. South Australians know the power of renewables.
Well, yes, South Australians also know the hardship of blackouts. Croweat has experienced the state's first ever statewide blackout 8 years ago when the power line from Victoria was tripped. And without coal-fired power from interstate, South Australia went dark. And it took some areas many days to get the power back on.
We're a world leader, ready to welcome the world's leaders. We are South Australia. We are the clear choice for COP31.
A world leader or a warning to the world? A canary in the closed coal mine? Imagine how much COP31 will cost. And imagine Premier Peter Malinauskas explaining why he subjects his voters to expensive and unreliable power when his own state has one of the world's largest uranium mines, exporting yellow cake so that other countries can have the reliable, affordable and emissions-free nuclear power that Australians are denied. Imagine Albanese telling the visitors that we're going to build nuclear-powered submarines in South Australia with intermittent electricity from wind farms. Perhaps it would be a good idea to have COP31 in Adelaide. It might be a reality check on our own climate and energy self-harm. In fact, they should have it in February and run the risk of blackouts during the conference on a hot day. There's nothing like a 40-degree day without air conditioning to remind you of how power needs to be affordable and reliable.